Yes, hello, and welcome to the very first SuperCore version 2 video tutorial. This is SuperCore, and today we're going to go over some of the features and how it sounds. SuperCore is a Rompler, which means it loads sound fonts. It loads multi-sample files called sound fonts. And the actual library that comes with SuperCore is right around 5.3, 5.4 gigabytes. It has quite a few categories, and as you'll see, we'll load some sounds in. Right now, all the sounds that are loaded into all 6 layers of SuperCore are from the library. So what you hear is actually some of what you will get. Now, SuperCore has 6 layers. Each layer has the same controls. So you have your sound font loader. To load a sound font, you press load. We'll do that in a little bit. And you load in a sound font. You have, if the sound font has banks, you can click here to load in the bank. And if it has, more than one sample, because sound fonts can have multi-samples within one file, you can have quite a few. All the sounds in the core library only have one sound, just for size reasons. Some of these sounds are pretty big. Okay, so that's your sound font loader. Underneath that, you have your MIDI channel selector. That lets you choose which MIDI channel you would like that layer to use. You can have all the way up to 16, and then all is just all. What's important to note about the MIDI channel selector is that it's directly tied in with the phrase sequencer. As you can see, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but as you can see here, you can choose which MIDI channel the phrase sequencer uses. And that's directly tied with each layer. So you can actually have, and I do have, multiple sounds happening on the phrase sequencer across 3 of these layers. Okay. Next to that, you have your envelope controls. You have attack, decay, sustain, release. The less attack, the more punchy the sound. The more attack, the more it's like a pad. It'll have a slow increase, a slow ramp up. Same thing with release. The shorter the release, the quicker it stops. The longer the release, the more elongated the sound. You can kind of fake reverb by having a long release. And then you have, of course, decay and sustain as well. You'll notice you have a readout here, as you click the controls. They give you visual feedback. Not only that, but you can actually click inside these, and you can edit by doing it that way with the keyboard. Next to that, you have your EQ. Okay, that is your equalization. You have your lows, your mids, and your highs. Okay, so if a sound doesn't have enough bass, or maybe it has too much bass, or not enough mid, or it's a very bassy sound, you want to make it a little more trebly, you'd increase the high. And again, you can enter in the values. Next to that, we have our pitch shifter. This lets you shift your pitch up and down by 2 octaves either way. So if a sound, let me lower all these. And I'm using the mixer right now to lower the sound. This is the first preset, by the way, you get with SuperCore. So here's your sound. Okay, that's like a bass, and I do have to delay and stuff on there because you'll hear it later. But if I pitch shift it down, or I pitch shift it way up, you can hear. And if I want to get it back to dead center where it was normally, I click this little button here, and it puts us right back where we were. Okay. As you saw that we do have multiple layers, so I'm going to put the volume back up on the layers. Okay. And above that, we have probably my favorite part of SuperCore, next to the phrase sequencer. We have the visual zoning tools. What are the visual zoning tools? If you want to have your sounds play on a certain part of the keyboard, a certain octave on the keyboard, normally if you don't have something like zoning, it's just across the whole keyboard, and all you really can do is layer 3 or 4 sounds together, and that's it. But with SuperCore, you can actually define precisely where the sound will play. Right now, this layer will play all the way up to this key here. And if I play on the keyboard, you see a little white dot that shows. You're hearing all the sounds, by the way. So, because you'll see that down here, this layer of Voices in the Void is actually the entire keyboard. Whereas this zone here is just, the first like octave or so of a 61 key keyboard. And the way in which you edit this is you click and drag. It's really easy, and it's very visual. So if you want to, let's say you want to only go up to like C. So let's say I only want it to go here. Okay, so I know where to go, and I just go a couple more. And there you go. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Now I want to actually make it sound on the C. So, and that's it. Okay? So you can see here. Oh, by the way, let's say you just want to move the whole thing around, you just click and drag, and the whole thing moves. Okay, good. Anyway, next to that is this little Z here. Okay? The Z actually stands for zoning, and the original zoner was a little less graphical, should I say. You click here, and you actually have key mapping. Okay, so you can actually do some nice key mapping with SuperCore. You click on a map, and then you can map your keys. Right now we have C1 going to C1, C#1 going to C#1, etc., etc. But we can actually define a key. So F1, and instead of F1, we can make it go to G1, or namely we can turn them on and off. We can also say what channels, what MIDI channel and what output, up to 8 outputs. Okay, same with we can also turn it off. So, and that way you can turn keys on and off. It's it's great for mapping a key to another key. If you want to, let's say you have for drums, let's say you have good drum sounds, and you want to map them. Let's say they're not general MIDI and they're not together in a normal drum. Normally your drum multi-samples are done in a certain pattern, but some aren't. You can mess around with what drum goes where, and it's really good with the phrase sequencer because you can tell a certain drum or a certain key to go on a certain MIDI channel and a certain other key, and then use that with a phrase sequencer. It's a little complex, but essentially it's a way to map the samples anywhere from one place to another place. C4 can play on C1 or vice versa, and you can turn off certain keys if you don't want them playing. It just works along with zoning, so that you can fully define where a sound plays. Okay, and you have that all of this across all 6 layers, so you can have a pretty complex sound. So here, for example, is this sound on the upper. And we have very nice string sounds, and that's comprised of this string choir, Voices in the Void. Those 2 are playing. Now, as we go down, we're going to have the tremolo bass. Okay, that's playing. But these aren't playing yet because these are mapped to the very last key on a 61 key keyboard. That's what I'm using to play the sounds. Voices in the Void are playing across the entire keyboard, so it gives it a nice like a music bed, an underbelly. And then we have this orchestra sound on the low end. So, for example, okay, so you get a nice big sound. Now, what's really cool is if you play the last key on the keyboard along with another key, and you get a nice big huge percussion hit. So you can see on the very last key, I have this huge big hit. So that's the layering.